and welcome. You might have seen video of aircraft taking off using JATO or RATO. Jet or rocket assisted takeoff helps overloaded aircraft into the air by providing additional thrust. Early experiments using rockets to boost gliders into the air were conducted in Germany in the 1920s by Alexander Lippisch using his sailplane named Enti, meaning duck. During World War II, the Royal Air Force and the German Air Force worked on similar systems. The British used large solid fuel rockets to propel planes such as the Hawker Hurricane off a ramp fitted to merchant ships in order to provide some cover against German maritime patrol planes. Over 2 years, the system was only employed 9 times to attack German aircraft, with 8 kills recorded for the loss of a single British pilot. The Fairey Swordfish was deployed as an effective anti-submarine weapon from these catapult aircraft merchant and warships, claiming 22 U-boats. The Luftwaffe also used the technique with both liquid-fueled units made by the company of Walter and BMW and solid fuel engines. These were used to boost the takeoff performance of their medium bombers and the enormous 55-metre wingspan giant Messerschmitt Me-321 glider, conceived in 1940 for the invasion of Britain and used to supply the Russian front. These Me-321s originally had air tow assistance from up to 3 Messerschmitt 110 heavy fighters in a so-called Troika-Schlepp arrangement. The risk of aerial collision of these 3 aircraft in V formation led to the substitution with a single Heinkel HE 111Z 5-engined twin fuselage towplane. The use of reaction-assisted takeoff methods became especially important late in the war when the lengths of usable runways were severely curtailed due to the results of Allied bombing in Germany. First experiments were held in 1937 on a Heinkel HE 111, piloted by test pilot Erich Warsitz at an airfield about 70 kilometres east of Berlin. On the 27th of August 1939, Flight Captain Erich Warsitz became the first man to fly a jet aircraft, the Heinkel HE 178, and in June of that same year he flew the first liquid fuel rocket aircraft, the Heinkel HE 176. German experiments with JATO were aimed at assisting the launch of interceptor aircraft such as the Messerschmitt 262C, so they could reach enemy bomber formations sooner. In early 1939, the National Academy of Sciences in the United States provided $1,000 to Theodore von Karman and the Rocket Research Group at the Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory at the California Institute of Technology to research rocket-assisted takeoff of aircraft. This JATO research was the first rocket research to receive financial assistance from the US government since World War I, when Robert Goddard had an Army contract to develop solid fuel rocket weapons. In late 1941, von Karman and his team attached several 50-pound thrust solid fuel Aerojet JATOs to a light Ercoupe plane for test runs. On the last run, they removed the plane's propeller, attached 6 JATO units under the wings, and the pilot was thrust into the air for a short flight, the first American to fly by rocket power only. After World War II, JATO was often used to overcome the poor thrust of the early jet engines at low speeds or for assisting heavily loaded aircraft to take off. For example, the propeller-engined Avro Shackleton, when heavily laden with fuel for long maritime surveillance flights, relied on Armstrong Siddeley Viper turbojets for takeoff. The world's first jet airliner, the de Havilland DH-106 Comet, included a design provision to carry 2 hydrogen peroxide powered de Havilland Sprite Booster rockets intended to be installed for hot and high conditions from airports such as Khartoum and Nairobi. These were tested on 30 flights, but the de Havilland Ghost jet engines alone were considered powerful enough, and some airlines concluded that rocket motors were impractical. Nevertheless, Sprite fittings were retained on production Comet 1s, but were rendered unnecessary with subsequent engine upgrades. In the late 1950s, zero-length launch experimental programs for launching fighter aircraft were carried out by the United States Air Force, the Luftwaffe and the Soviets using high-thrust, short-burn duration booster designs of similar appearance and function. The US Air Force used a modified Republic F-84, which used a cruise missile's solid fuel booster of 2-second thrust duration. The F-100 and F-104 were also used for zero-length launch experiments with similarly powerful drop-away booster units to the Soviets' SM-30 experiments. Also in the 1950s, the JATO Junior was an attempt by Aerojet Engineering to introduce smaller JATO units to small commercial aircraft, but this was blocked by the US Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics. Aerojet claimed that the smaller JATO bottle, delivering 250 pounds of thrust for 12 seconds, could help a light private plane that normally requires almost 900 feet of runway to clear a 50-foot high obstacle, to do this with only 300 feet of runway. The Boeing 727 had provision for Aerojet JATO assist for use in hot and high conditions, particularly at Mexico City and La Paz. A JATO option was available for the Fairchild-Swearingen Metroliner to increase takeoff weight while maintaining one engine in operative climb requirements. In the late 1980s, the United States military operation plan, Operation Creditable Sport, was intended to rescue hostages held by Iran using C-130 cargo planes modified with rocket engines to enable a very short takeoff and landing. The plan was cancelled after an accident occurred during a test landing when the forward-facing JATO units, designed to slow the aircraft, fired before the downward-facing units did, causing the aircraft to crash land. JATO became largely unnecessary as the takeoff thrust of jet engines improved and is now rarely used even when operating heavily laden from short runways or in hot and high conditions. It is occasionally used in exceptional circumstances on specially equipped, mostly military aircraft. A JATO rocket car was filmed by Mythbusters in 2003 going very fast, outrunning the chase helicopter. In 2007, using a different configuration of rockets, they attempted to make the car fly. Alas, it exploded before reaching the end of its launch ramp. For a third attempt in 2013, a JATO-equipped 1958 Dodge Coronet car on the El Mirage Dry Lake was used for a TV advertisement to demonstrate the power of their brakes. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment to promote further content.